Hello, everyone. Welcome back to the Thread of Thoughts podcast. I am your host, Tia. Today, we are going to be discussing self-sabotage. I, myself, and I believe most of us have experienced being our own worst enemy, getting in our own way, and just engaging in self-destructive behaviors and patterns. And I know that everyone's experience or experiences related to self-sabotage is different. However, today I am going to focus on the areas of self sabotage that hit just a little too close to home. Okay. But before we get started, I want to provide a definition of what self sabotage is. And because self sabotage can be a deeper, more psychological topic, I've done my best to search for a really strong definition from a .org, a .edu, a .gov. I was really researching and getting in there, but I didn't like any of them. I honestly didn't, but I did like the definition that Google provided. So from a quick Google search, the Google AI overview defined it as this. It says, self-sabotage is when a person's actions, thoughts, or behaviors undermine their own success and prevent them from reaching their goals. This can be conscious or unconscious and may involve behaviors like procrastination, self-medication, comfort eating, or creating conflict to end relationships. These patterns often stem from deeper fears or low self-worth developed from past experiences. So the first form of self-sabotage that I want to dive into today is self-care. And I say this with quotes in the air because I do believe that a lot of self-care can actually be self-sabotage in disguise. And I am someone who prioritizes self-care a lot. And it definitely is needed. But there are times where I choose self-care as an escape from certain tasks or responsibilities that I just may find to be challenging or uncomfortable. So instead of engaging in self-care after I put forward the effort, I would engage in self-care instead of putting forward the effort. And the self-care can look like a number of different things, right? It can be sleeping to avoid my to-do list. It can be constantly planning for the thing instead of doing the thing. Like, for example, the other day, I wrote the same list of things that I needed to complete down 3 times instead of actually doing the things, right? Like, I wrote the same list 3 times. And a lot of what I had to do was make phone calls. And I'm just not a huge fan of making phone calls, scheduling appointments, inquiring about things. But then I do it and it takes me less than 3 minutes. Like, I don't know what that's about. It just seems daunting initially, but I can also say that this sort of ties to that procrastination component as well when it comes to completing a task, because in this case, I was planning and rewriting the same list over and over, still putting off the real task and still procrastinating from the real task, which was making the phone calls. And I'm not going to obtain what I need through making the list 1,000 times. I'm going to obtain what I need through making the phone calls, right? Self-care can also look like treating yourself as justification. It may include indulging in certain foods as a treat for getting through a tough assignment or a rough week, even if those foods go against certain goals for eating healthier. And that's what I find too, is that it's often used as a way to discard boundaries or goals that have been set for ourselves. And then finally, I see this a lot within this generation and just this day and time where self-care, again, with the quotes in the air, it may look like cutting things off to protect your peace, when it really could just be avoiding uncomfortable conversations or conflict. And listen, I am guilty of this as well. I have done this before. But what I've learned is that those walls then block connection. And also, the older you get, you realize that a lot of people aren't disposable, and that even those who are close to you are going to disappoint you, and relationships will come with its challenges. But that doesn't mean that the response to that should be isolation or avoidance. And truthfully, we are just not done being disappointed in this lifetime, right? And we are not done experiencing challenges in this lifetime either. So instead of running when discomfort arises, I think it's important to sit with it, communicate about it, confront it. Now, don't get me wrong, though, because in the same breath, okay, some silent cutoffs are valid, but when it's something minor and there's substance there, there's care and there's love, put in the effort to work through it. And I also believe that in these instances, it's also important to know how to acknowledge and differentiate mistakes from patterns. Like, is this a one-time thing or is it a repeated behavior, And also, too, just having discernment in these instances as well is crucial. Another form of self sabotage is negative self talk and self criticism. Now, this negative self talk and self criticism can show up at different times and for different things. For me, this happens a lot as it relates to my goals, dreams, or ambitions. And I'm also aware that this behavior can stem from a number of different things. In my experience, it's been deeply rooted in judgment from others and how others have made me feel. For example, when I was younger, I would share my big dreams or goals with, people close to me or people around, whatever. And younger me used to share my dreams a lot, but that was before I developed an understanding that not every dream, goal, or idea should be shared. But oftentimes when I did share them, they were just met with lack of excitement. And looking back, maybe people had something personal going on. I'm not too sure. But they were either met with lack of excitement or negative commentary. And sometimes the negative commentary included others projecting their past and experiences onto my path and my future. And then I would subconsciously do the same. So now my brain is telling me that I can't do something before I even try, you know? And this also leads to my next point, because sometimes I would project the past and experiences of others onto my path without them even having to say anything. But I would do it because it's something that I'm continuously being exposed to. Like, it's in close proximity. It's in my environment. It's a part of my current circumstances. It's simply just in my sight daily. And because that's the case, that's all I think there is. And I think too, when we are constantly faced with dissatisfaction, negative outcomes, unalignment, it can be very challenging to see positivity or see how things could go right on the other side. Like, when you have sat in a situation for so long, it can be truly difficult to see outside of that. You could be at work and you could look around and see the people that have been at that job for 30, 40 plus years. And you start to believe that that's all there is and that that is your reality too, even if you have a dream tapping you on the shoulder every day. Or let's say your family may have struggled a significant amount of time in your life and you start to think that you're next in line for that outcome too. It's so easy to become paralyzed by what you see, which is why it is so vital to expose yourself to what you want to attract in life so you can see that things are achievable and that things are within reach. And you do this by placing yourself in the right environments, consuming the right media, and just engaging in the activities in the communities that will bring you closer to alignment. Because I do believe that the universe, God, the cosmos, ancestors, the stars, the planets, whatever you believe in, I do believe that they do not place certain dreams or visions upon us for no reason. If it's something good that you think about every day, absolutely see it through. I sort of went on a rant about that, so. But this behavior also stems from being my own worst critic. Just having that negative inner voice sometimes, which can also stem from societal pressures, comparison, and many other factors. And then there's also fear of being seen, fear of judgment, fear of failure. And oftentimes we're fearful of our own potential and success because there are more responsibilities and expectations tied to it. And there's also a fear of not being able to maintain or manage it. And then from that, it just feels safer to not try rather than to try and possibly encounter failure. And also, we don't want to be seen failing. That's another thing, right? Like, no one wants that. It is just so much to self-sabotage. It's insane. And the different ways that it can show up is so insane. And I'm telling y'all, I was literally sitting with myself and I was just like, oh, I do that with this. 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 And they all just came to me and I was like, yeah, I got to talk to y'all about this. I got to talk to y'all about this. Anyways, now I want to transition and I want to look at how self-sabotage shows up in the arena of friendships and relationships. So for me, there have been some past situations or occurrences that took place that have impacted how I showed up in more recent relationships and friendships. And oftentimes I'm not aware of how those past traumas still have a hold on me until I'm met with new encounters or there are people who want to get close to me. And then from that, those negative emotions or negative thought processes developed from those past experiences, they then come to the surface and become present. It's very interesting to me how we can say we want one thing, but we do everything possible to get in our way from achieving it or receiving it. It's very contradicting, but I find it to be extremely interesting. And I say this because even though there are times where I crave depth and I crave closeness, I still remain a bit avoidant. I still keep people at an arm's length. And sometimes I would do this thing. I hate to admit it. I hate to admit it, but here we are. I would do this thing where I would leave so I don't get left, ultimately causing certain dynamics to fail, right? And this is not something I am proud to say. This is just me being open, honest, and vulnerable. And listen, the abandonment wounds are loud today. They are speaking today. But it's all right. It's all right. This is me being vulnerable. It's okay. It is okay. But I would do that in an effort to avoid experiencing any emotional pain or hurt like I felt before. And this is fucked up. I'm completely aware. And more importantly, this is not fair to those who genuinely seek connection and closeness with me. And it's never my intention to bring emotional pain to them. It's always to protect me. And it's difficult to not take it personally when people decide to distance themselves from you. I take it personally. And that's what has happened to me, which has led to me doing this to others. And that's not right. So I take it personally too. And though I try not to, because like I said, at least for me, it all routes back to protecting myself, I just do my best to assume the same for others. I'm also aware of the mental spiral that it may bring me into where I'm questioning and doing all this deep reflection. And I'm like, where did I go wrong? What did I do? What did I say? Even when I know I've done nothing wrong. So knowing that I'm possibly causing that same emotional pain and that mental spiral to others, that hurts me as well. Another thing here is that I'm really, really working on detachment because I do believe attachment is the root of a lot of suffering for many of us in terms of interpersonal relationships. But like I said previously, even though there are times where I crave depth and closeness, there's still a fear. Like all of this is rooted in fear. All of this is linked to fear because putting yourself out there and developing new relationships and getting close to others, it still creates a risk of emotional pain. No one is exempt from that. Now, of course, you can take the necessary steps to avoid it as much as possible through just having discernment, not ignoring the red flags, practicing detachment, setting boundaries, all the things. And I also want to emphasize here too that emotional pain doesn't always stem from the bad, such as betrayal, disloyalty, heartbreak, jealousy, but it can also stem from the good, like someone deciding to expand their family, someone getting married, someone moving across country, someone receiving a promotion at work even, right? Like even good things can cause dynamics to shift. And you can be happy for those people, but that doesn't make the dynamic shifting hurt any less or feel any less uncomfortable. It still doesn't make you feel any less forgotten or abandoned sometimes, especially initially. Over time, of course, you adapt because you can't force change within someone else's life, but it can still leave some lingering emotions of missing the way things used to be. And those emotions alone can get heavy. So, transparent moment. Well, this whole episode is transparent, really. But I have been in this season where I've been forced to sort of sit with myself. And a part of this season has required me to connect with my inner child and inner teenager, honestly. And it was always so interesting to me when people would talk about connecting with their inner child because for a long time, I just felt like I couldn't relate. Every time I tried to meet my inner child, I felt like I couldn't reach her and I just had trouble getting to her. But within this season, I was able to reach her and I'm actually really, really happy about that because I do think that a big part of self-sabotage stems from child and teen development because when you really think about it, we are all just a curation of our childhood experiences, right? Like what took place during those younger years that has shaped our beliefs and our behaviors. And I knew that I needed to heal whatever I was operating from to stop hurting those who are good to me and those who are good for me. Now, the last form of self-sabotage I want to discuss is staying in friendships, relationships, or even environments longer than needed. And I think this is so interesting because I was just talking about like, hey, don't leave so soon. Like, stay a little while. And then in this, I'm talking about, hey, like, actually get out of there. You know what I mean? I just think it's so many different forms of self sabotage and so many different layers to it. And of course, it all depends on the context of certain situations and, what the circumstances are and the dynamics and things like that. But I just think it's such an interesting topic because it can go a lot deeper than even what I'm discussing today. But anyways, staying in certain friendships, relationships, or even environments longer than needed is a form of self-sabotage. And I will also say too that it's a form of self-harm. And I want to make it clear here when I'm discussing this is that I am speaking on if you have a choice to leave. Right? Because not everyone has a choice to leave. So if it's a situation where your livelihood or your safety is threatened, that's not what I'm referring to today. I'm speaking on if there is a choice to leave. So when we are faced with situations that require change, taking a leap of faith, or just simple decision making, there can be some hesitancy. And that's mainly because there is uncertainty about what's on the other end of that decision. Like, if I make this decision that will ultimately lead to change, will I be met with danger or opportunity on the other side? Right? There have been many, many times where I have stayed in situations that were not good for me and ultimately created my own pain. And this is where I have to take accountability, right? You know how they say 100 women versus accountability. But no, seriously, I have to take accountability for the part that I have played in my own suffering. I've talked to you guys before about the 4-year situationship that I was in. And even saying that, it's just like, Tia, like what was really going on? And I feel too grown to be saying situationship, but that's what it was. It was something that overstayed its welcome. It was something to me. It was nothing to him. It was not reciprocal. It was not consistent. We never established the boyfriend girlfriend title. He was my one and only while I was his one of many, you know. But I remember in year 3, something told me, end this shit right now. Like, just end it. And I remember the moment I got that thought, the moment I got that feeling, I was in bed doing my schoolwork. And I remember it just came to me and I just brushed it off. I was like, no. I was in such denial. I was like, this is my best friend. I'm not going to end this, must have been the win, right? Like, nothing too serious. Year 4 comes and then this whole thing happens, right? Now I'm heartbroken. Now I'm feeling betrayed. And it's crazy to say that those emotions came from a situationship, but I'm not going to discount my feelings because that's exactly what it was. I was heartbroken and betrayed, but I could have saved myself so much had I ended at year 3. And it doesn't always have to be intuition either. It could just be fact, right? Like, for a long time, I actively experienced this person treating me poorly. Like, I saw it, I knew it, I felt it. And staying longer doesn't prove that I'm any more loyal than what I am or that my heart is bigger than what it is. Time was up. Time was truly up. And staying in that, I just ended up abandoning myself and blocking out possibilities. I ended up people pleasing and minimizing my own needs because of comfort and history and familiarity. Leaving situations or environments that aren't good for you starts with trusting yourself and trusting your judgment. I talked about environments as well, and that can be physically or digitally, honestly. Let's say you've been in the same role for 5 years and you never received an increase or promotion. You start to feel stagnant. You start to feel like you're not growing in this role or with this company. And then let's say you receive another offer. Let's say you receive an offer from a different company. Maybe that company offers that growth that you're seeking and the pay that you're seeking. But then you decline that opportunity because it's unfamiliar, right? Going into that new opportunity is going to require stepping outside of what you're used to. But deep down, you know that's what you need, right? And choosing to stay in that stagnancy is self-sabotage. Even staying a part of certain online communities, groups, or followings that may be negatively impacting your well-being is another example. Social media is an entirely different world, and it's extremely easy to encounter or consume media that activates any wounds or triggers or prompts any feelings of sadness, emptiness, or comparison. It's like you got to know when to get up out of there. You know what I mean? Like, unfollow that person that you're trying to heal from. Leave that group chat that's full of gossip. And I hope this form of self sabotage doesn't sound like I'm speaking from the ego where I need to leave first to look better or feel better. I think a big part of overcoming self sabotage is operating in alignment with the version of yourself that you want to be. And that requires knowing when to move on. I think with many situations, we end up staying because of hope, hoping people would change, hoping certain environments would change. But hope can get really heavy. And I think hope will have us in situations that should have been hung up long time ago, long time ago. And we have to remind ourselves of what is in our control. Plenty of things are in our control. Even the pain that I felt as a result of holding on to that situationship was absolutely preventable. Absolutely preventable. We also end up staying because of familiarity. I hope that I'm saying that right. But we stay because of that. We stay because of, fear of the unknown, low self esteem, wanting to be chosen, and many other reasons. We again, like I said before, we begin to think that that's all there is. So we avoid leaving even when our souls know a certain chapter has come to its end. We avoid leaning into the unknown. We avoid trying new things. We avoid stretching our containers because we don't know if the next thing is the best thing. That uncertainty in itself can get really, really loud. And even sometimes we just simply don't feel worthy or deserving of better. And it's kind of one of those things that you just have to dig for, because what took place to make you not feel worthy or deserving of better? What has impacted you for you to carry such negative, limiting perspectives over yourself? Like, really think about it. But the thing is with self sabotage is that it's going to require rewiring, and it won't happen overnight, but it's something that you have to continuously practice. It's going to require identifying the root through self reflection or even therapy. Therapy can definitely aid with processing certain events and validating your thoughts or experiences where needed. It's also going to require challenging those negative beliefs that you hold towards yourself, and also trusting and opening yourself up so that good things can happen to you and for you. I think it's extremely vital to eliminate reinforcing those same negative patterns and cycles, right? It's also going to require making smaller changes and commitments. It's going to require being more accountable. The big thing here is just, like I said before, just recognizing when you are engaging in behaviors and patterns that are not in alignment with the version of you that you want to be, with the goals that you have set for yourself, with the life that you see yourself living. It is so important to know when you are stepping on your own toes. And like I said, it won't happen overnight, and you may encounter self-sabotage again. But as long as you are conscious and that you have that self-awareness, you'll be just fine. We'll be just fine, okay? Because I'm in this too. That's why I started the whole episode. We are going to be just fine. As long as we are putting in the effort, we are going to be okay. Well, that is all that I have for you guys today. Thank you so much for listening and tuning in and just hanging out with me today. It's been so much fun, and the support is always appreciated. Make sure you guys follow, listen, and subscribe on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, and YouTube. And also be sure to follow the podcast Instagram at Thread of Thoughts Pod. And we'll talk soon.